The forest lay in mist, silence broken only by distant machine hums and the creak of pines. In a clearing at Tor, M2 unit stirred. Its radar spun, locked, and a missile ripped into the pale pre-dawn sky. A small reconnaissance drone flashed and vanished seconds later. Soldiers below cheered, believing the danger passed. They could not know the drone's last data burst had already sent exact convoy coordinates into open space. In Kiev, an operator stared at a Maxar satellite feed. The convoy's path through Belgorod forest showed clearly. Layers of AI predictions and drone tails had shaped a precise map of its movement and likely stops. The plan was called Phantom Swarm. Switchblade 300 drones had trailed the column, streaming telemetry through Starlink. Ukrainians had stitched sensors and algorithms into a net that turned distance into tactical opportunity. At 4:15 a.m., inside a camouflaged M113 5 miles away, fingers hovered above a switch. 25 FPV drones rose, each carrying a shaped charge. They scattered in chaotic, bird-like patterns instead of neat formations. The deception aimed at machines. Radars built for predictable threats saw clutter. Russian crews laughed at phantom blips. The swarm's erratic motion was a weapon designed to confuse algorithmic logic rather than human eyes. Inside the M113, the operator watched multiple feeds like conductor. AI fused thermal and motion data, predicting pauses where drivers might stop. Then static tore his screen, the signature of an Orlan, 10 jamming overhead. The Orlan's pilot noticed the pattern was too ordered to be natural. He bypassed automation and radioed the Spetsnaz commander. Anti-drone rifles fired jamming pulses. 3 Ukrainian drone feeds froze and dropped from the sky. Panic narrowed the operator's mind. If the uplink was found, an anti-tank missile would make their vehicle a crater. He activated Echo Trap, a countermeasure that recorded the Orlan's commands and rebroadcast them delayed to sow confusion. False signals multiplied across Russian displays. The Orlan's navigation looped on echoes. Readings bounced to ghost locations. For a vital window, Russia's eye in the sky lost clarity, unable to tell phantom from real threat. A side panel on the M113 opened, and a Switchblade 600 loitering munition launched skyward. Using thermal optics, it hunted the Orlan's engine heat. The hunter became prey as the loitering missile dove in precise, fatal arc. The Orlan blew apart in shrapnel and flame. Its cameras died. Spetsnaz crews watched their primary reconnaissance asset vaporize and felt a sharp fear. The attack was nearer and smarter than they had imagined possible. A Ka-52 alligator lifted from a nearby base, sensors cutting through canopy until a faint rectangular heat signature glowed. The M113. A Viker missile locked on. Inside the armored vehicle, red warning screamed and time warped into seconds. He launched a smoke phantom, an aerosol decoy engineered to bloom a larger, hotter infrared signature. The incoming missile shifted and detonated in the cloud, saving the crew but leaving the helicopter threat unresolved. The operator then sent a small EMP-equipped FPV at the Ka-52. The blast fried avionics and plunged the helicopter into dark confusion. With the sky clear, 22 drones folded inward, aiming for fuel tanks now. The smoke still hung in the treetops like a ghost that refused to die. Below it, the forest glowed in pulses of orange from distant fires, each one a silent testament to the chaos that unfolded moments before. Inside the M113, the air was hot and metallic, filled with the smell of burned circuitry and sweat. The operator wiped a trembling hand across his brow and stared at the remaining swarm icons blinking steadily on his monitor. 22 drones. Still alive, still waiting. In the skies above, the wreckage of the Orlan drifted downward, fragments catching the faint dawn light as they fell. For a brief, almost surreal moment, it looked like snow, but the illusion ended with the distant rumble of engines. The Chinese convoy was moving again. The trucks roared through the forest, headlights cutting ribbons of white through the mist. They were accelerating now, panic in motion. The Ukrainian operator's voice was calm, almost eerily so. "They're running," he said to no one in particular. His second-in-command, a quiet soldier named Danilo, leaned over his shoulder. "Running means scared. Scare means sloppy. Both men knew that fear was a perfect weapon. Panic made even elite soldiers predictable. The next phase depended on that very predictability. The AI's analysis predicted 3 choke points along the convoy's route. Narrow clearings where trees gave way to old logging paths. Each could serve as a natural kill zone. The operator marked the first one with a tap on his screen. "We hit them here," he murmured. "They'll never see it coming." 5 miles ahead, the convoy thundered forward. The Spetsnaz escort commander barked orders through static-ridden radios, his voice a low growl. "Keep formation. Stay spread out." But the forest was unforgiving. The trucks had to squeeze through narrow paths carved decades earlier, and with every turn, their spacing collapsed. Their greatest weakness was geometry, the terrain itself. The phantom swarm began its descent. On screen, 22 icons broke formation once again, moving not as machines but as instinct. They weaved through the treetops, flying so low that branches snapped against their carbon fiber frames. The night vision feed shimmered green and alive, a ballet of light and death above the forest floor. A single truck driver glanced upward and froze. He couldn't see the drones, but he could hear them, faint buzzing like a swarm of angry wasps growing louder with every second. His instincts screamed to stop, but orders were orders. He gripped the wheel tighter and accelerated. That decision would seal his fate. Inside the M113, the operator watched the drones lock onto heat signatures. Each target shimmered with crimson light on his display. He could almost feel the heartbeat of the machine, the cold, precise pulse of modern warfare guided by invisible hands. His lips barely moved as he whispered, "Let them believe they're safe." Suddenly, one of the drone feeds flickered, a jamming pulse. The Russians had reactivated their countermeasures. Somewhere among the convoy, a new Orlan or jammer was alive again. Static slashed across half his monitors. Danilo cursed under his breath. "They're learning." The operator smiled faintly. "Then we teach them faster." He switched the swarm to autonomous mode. The drones, no longer dependent on a live signal, began operating on preloaded combat logic, a digital instinct honed from dozens of simulations. Each one was now a ghost with purpose, able to fly, strike, and die without human input. The forest filled with invisible hunters. The convoy commander didn't know what was coming, but he could feel it. His radio screamed reports of strange lights and missing rear trucks. "Eyes up," he yelled. "We're not alone." But before the words could fully leave his mouth, a single explosion shattered the darkness ahead. A fuel tanker had vanished in a sphere of fire. The convoy ground to a halt. Flames licked upward to fog, reflecting off the chrome of nearby trucks. Men ran, shouting, but their voices were drowned out by the next blast. One after another, the drones struck from every direction, some from above, some skimming inches above the ground, detonating on contact. Inside the M113, the operator didn't blink. His face was lit by firelight flickering across his monitor. The forest was a storm of color, red, orange, white, each blast painting the trees in brief, violent brilliance. The operator's voice came low and even. "Phase 2 complete," he said softly. "Prepare for the counterstrike." Because he knew what came next. He knew Russia would not let this go unanswered. Somewhere beyond the horizon, another predator was already taking flight. One that wouldn't be fooled by phantoms this time. The forest would soon burn brighter than ever before. The dawn was breaking, but the forest looked nothing like morning. Smoke rolled low across the ground, curling through broken trees and burning metal. Every few seconds, a dull explosion echoed through the distance. Fuel tanks collapsing, shells detonating from the heat. The sky itself seemed bruised, tinted orange by flames that refused to die. Inside the M113, the operator's hand shook slightly over the console, not from fear, but from adrenaline that hadn't yet found a place to settle. He had done it. The convoy was in ruins. The AI had calculated everything perfectly. The flight paths, the delays, the angles of impact. But victory in modern warfare never lasted long. As the operator stared at the fading drone feeds, he noticed one thing that made his pulse spike again. The static had changed. It wasn't random anymore. It was patterned, controlled. Someone was scanning for them. High above the clouds, another Orlan wasn't coming. This time, the Russians sent something far deadlier. The Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter, resurrected from the chaos, was back in the air with a vengeance. Its systems had been hardened, its targeting software reprogrammed to ignore interference. What had been blinded by EMP an hour ago was now reborn as a hunter with no fear of ghosts. The helicopter tore across the forest line, cutting through the haze like a vengeful specter. Its sensor scanned the charred ground below, picking up the faint thermal echo of the M113's last known position. The pilot's gloved hand gripped the stick tighter. His voice cracked through the radio, cold and precise. Target reacquired. Preparing strike. Inside the M113, alarms blared again. The operator saw the incoming signature before he heard it. A Viker missile lock, glowing red on his tactical display. "They're back!" Danilo shouted, slamming his hand against the console. "It's the Alligator." The operator exhaled slowly. "Good," he muttered. "Let's see if they've learned enough to survive this time." He switched to a hidden module, something experimental, something the manual warned not to use in active combat. The interface lit up with a pulsing amber glow, Ghost Line protocol active. Instead of running, they would turn invisible. The system began transmitting a low-frequency field that bent their heat signature, merging it with the ambient temperature of the burning forest. Outside, the Ka-52's targeting sensor stuttered. Its display flickered, painting the entire forest in confused layers of overlapping heat signatures. The pilot cursed. "Multiple false locks," he barked. "They're everywhere." His weapon's officer toggled manual control, scanning for any movement. Then he saw it. Something glinting near the tree line. "Got you," he whispered, and pressed fire. The missile cut through the fog, trailing fire behind it. But it wasn't heading toward the M113. The reflection of burning metal from a destroyed truck had tricked the sensors. The missile hit the wreckage, erupting into another blinding explosion that tore through the trees. The shockwave rattled the Ukrainian vehicle, knocking dust from its ceiling. Danilo grinned. "That's 1,000,000 rubles wasted," he said. But they knew it wouldn't last. The Alligator was circling back. The Ghost Line field was weakening. Power reserves were running low. The operator looked to his last available weapon, a single EMP drone, the second prototype. "Get ready," he ordered. Danilo hesitated. "If it fails, then we die." The operator cut in. "Launch it." The small drone shot upward through the smoke, silent as a moth. The helicopter's sensors detected it too late. The operator's finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for proximity confirmation. "Now," he whispered. The detonation burst across the air in an invisible wave. For a moment, the entire forest fell silent. Then a violent crackle split the sky. The Ka-52 systems died instantly. Its rotors slowed, whining helplessly as lights across its cockpit flickered out. The pilot tried to stabilize the descent, but the controls were dead. The massive machine tilted sideways, disappearing into the tree line with a metallic roar that ended in a thunderous crash. Inside the M113, the crew exhaled as one. No cheers, no celebration. Only the sound of exhaustion and disbelief. "He's down," Danilo said softly. "The Alligator's gone." The operator didn't look up. His eyes stayed fixed on the smoldering horizon. "No," he murmured. "Something else will come. It always does." Outside, the last remnants of the convoy burned. And in the distance, beyond the smoke, beyond the trees, the faint, steady hum of engines began again. Russia was regrouping. The forest wasn't done with them yet. The smoke had thinned by sunrise, but the forest still whispered of violence. Trees stood blackened, their bark blistered from the heat, and the air shimmered with the ghost of burned fuel. The battlefield that had once pulsed with movement was now a graveyard of twisted metal. Crows circled silently above, drawn by the aftermath of war. From inside the battered M113, the operator watched through cracked glass as the final drone feeds blinked out one by one. The mission was almost over, but not finished. The radio hissed with distant chatter, fragmented Russian commands, the sounds of confusion. Somewhere beyond the ridge, survivors were calling for reinforcements. The operator leaned closer, his expression unreadable. "They're trying to regroup," he murmured. Danilo, slumped against the wall, barely lifted his head. "Let them. We still have ghosts in the air." He was right. 6 drones remained, battered low on power, but still flying. Each one circled the smoldering wreckage like vultures waiting for movement. Through their thermal vision, the operator saw faint heat signatures. Bodies moving, some crawling, others dragging weapons from destroyed trucks. The Spetsnaz weren't finished. They were adapting, forming a perimeter. It wasn't victory yet. It was survival. The operator zoomed in on the convoy's command vehicle, or what was left of it. The roof had caved in, but one antenna still flickered faintly. "That's their heartbeat," he said. "If it's still transmitting, Moscow's still listening." The implication was clear. The war above them, the digital war, was still raging. Every signal mattered. He decided to end it. With slow precision, he rerouted the last 6 drones into formation, something they hadn't done since launch. For the first time, the swarm flew as one. Their synchronized path carved a single spiral above the battlefield, like a storm tightening its eye. Danilo watched the monitor and whispered, "Looks like a halo." The operator didn't answer. "No," he said quietly. "It's a noose." At 4:21 a.m., he gave the command. The 6 drones descended. Each target locked onto a heat source. The command truck, the remaining artillery, the 2 surviving fuel carriers. The forest ignited once more in a series of blinding flashes, each detonation feeding the next until horizon bloomed with fire. The earth trembled beneath them. The echo rolled for miles, a thunder that refused to fade. Then silence. True silence. No radio calls, no engines, no return fire. Just wind and the crackle of dying flames. The operator leaned back in his seat, the tension draining from his face. "It's done," he said softly. "No signal. No survivors." Danilo closed his eyes. "Then we finally go home." But home wasn't waiting. Hours later, a Maxar satellite passed overhead, capturing what remained. The images would soon circle the world. 15 Chinese artillery units reduced to molten craters, 20 trucks shredded beyond recognition, and a scar carved into Russian soil so deep it could be seen from space. A ghostly wound marking the spot where arrogance met innovation. In Moscow, panic spread faster than the truth. Commanders questioned the reliability of their new Chinese hardware. Politicians demanded explanations. How could a handful of men, hidden in the forest, dismantle a multi-million-dollar operation? There was no answer, only silence and fear. For the Ukrainians, this victory wasn't measured in territory, but in time. The destroyed convoy delayed enemy reinforcements by days, days that would save thousands of lives on the front. The operator knew it wasn't the end of the war, but it was proof that ingenuity could eclipse power, that courage could silence machines. He stepped out of the M113, boots sinking into ash and mud. The cold morning air bit his skin, carrying the smell of burned diesel. Around him, the forest stood still, like it was holding its breath. Danilo climbed out beside him, eyes scanning the endless smoke. "What now?" he asked. The operator adjusted his headset and looked east. "Now," he said, "we disappear." They moved silently into the trees, leaving behind the scorched machines that had rewritten a chapter of modern warfare. As the last echoes of battle faded, the Belgorod forest returned to its ancient quiet, its secrets buried beneath the blackened earth. But somewhere, deep in that silence, a new kind of war was being born. One fought not with armies or borders, but with code, signal, and shadows. And when history would later record this night, it would not speak of the fire, nor the destruction, but the moment a small nation proved that intelligence and what could turn giants into ghosts.